Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, this is Inorganic Material Chemistry, Chem 3115, and this is 34th lecture of this course. And the topic which we are going to discuss today is hydrothermal synthesis. Sometimes we also use the word solvothermal synthesis. Later we will discuss about it, that what is difference between hydrothermal and solvothermal. This topic has been splitted into three lectures, and this is the first lecture on hydrothermal synthesis, hydrothermal synthesis 1. The key concepts of these three lectures, they involve, first of all, there will be some introduction about hydrothermal and solvothermal synthesis. Then we will discuss main characteristics of hydrothermal or solvothermal thermal synthesis. After that, there will be some advantages, applications, and disadvantages. We will summarize our results, and we will also discuss some examples of synthesis of nanomaterials via hydrothermal or solvothermal synthesis method. So starting from the introduction, we know that the solid state chemistry deals with synthesis, structure, structural analysis, and properties and applications of solid materials. And these materials are generally inorganic because our course is also inorganic solid state chemistry, inorganic material chemistry. So this is why we mostly focus on inorganic materials. However, organic solids, they are also included because they are solids and they show interesting physical properties, and the reactions of organic solids are connected to topochemical control. For example, they are influenced by their molecular packing arrangement. Therefore, minerals are included because they are examples of inorganic solids which occur in nature. Most of the inorganic solids are non-molecular and their structure is determined by the manner in which atoms or ions are packed together in three dimensions. Their various and complex structure types are the center of appreciation of solid state chemistry. This includes description and classification of crystal structures by the knowledge of space groups and estimation of the factors which affect and control the crystal structure. So dear students, you have already learnt about crystalline solids, where you have learnt about a unit cell and crystal structure. So this crystal structure can be controlled by different synthesis methods. So here we are talking about solid state chemistry. An important structural aspect is the defect structure of solids. You have already learned about different kind of defects in previous lectures. So these defects have a great effect on properties just as mechanical strength, electrical conductivity, and chemical reactivity. These defects allow the various composition of solids in the framework of the same overall crystal structure. Thus, it is possible to control or modify many properties by changing the composition. There are several methods in order to synthesize inorganic solids, among them vapor phase transport, precipitation reaction, electrochemical methods, ceramic methods, and also the solvothermal and hydrothermal methods, which is actually our topic. So here is a question that why to use hydrothermal or solvothermal synthesis. The hydrothermal synthesis method is chosen to synthesize organic solids or inorganic solids or organic inorganic hybrid materials, because the other solid state synthesis methods, they are usually carried out by high temperature like 1000 or more than 1000 degrees centigrade, and where the solid solid interactions occur, and this method is powerful in order to produce stable or organic inorganic hybrid materials. So solvothermal process, which is also a process for novel materials to hybrid nanosystems. What is a solvothermal reaction? A solvothermal reaction can be defined as a chemical reaction or transformation between precursor in a solvent in a closed system at a temperature higher than the boiling temperature of this solvent and under high temperature. So simply we can say a solvothermal reaction is carried out by using reactants in a solvent, and the temperature is taken such that which is higher than the boiling temperature of the solvent which is used in solvothermal synthesis. Because we are using high temperature higher than the boiling temperature of the solvent, so this is why we will get high pressure, and also we will close the container to attain high pressure. So this is under high pressure. This high pressure is actually autogenous pressure or imposed pressure. Why autogenous? Because we are using temperature which is higher than the boiling temperature of the solvent, and we are using a closed container in which the solvent vapors cannot go out. So this is why we will get an autogenous or imposed pressure. So subcritical or supercritical domain, and this is a homogeneous or sometimes a heterogeneous system. The term solvothermal was proposed at the beginning of 90s during the development of non-aqueous solvents. Because we are using the term solvothermal, and here can be any solvent. Solvent can be water or it can be a non-aqueous solvent. So for example, synthesis and crystal growths of nitrides using liquid ammonia as a solvent. So this is amothermal process because we are using ammonia. Similarly, synthesis and crystal growth of iron oxide as small single crystals using ethanol, alcohol as a solvent. So this is alcoholothermal process. So consequently, each solvent can lead to a specific word for different processes characterized by the same features. So solvo means solvent and thermal means use of the temperature. Just like amothermal, alcoholothermal If we use water as a solvent, then the solvothermal process will be called hydrothermal because hydra or hydro is used for water as a solvent. So hydrothermal synthesis. Hydrothermal synthesis method is finding increasing applications in material science and solid state chemistry. It is technologically important method for crystal growth and the synthesis of new materials with useful properties. It is also interesting scientifically because using high pressure provides an additional parameter for obtaining fundamental information on the structures, behavior, and properties of solids. So, hydrothermal synthesis is a chemical reaction in the presence of aqueous solvents above 100 degrees centigrade because we know that the boiling point of water is 100 degrees centigrade and at pressures greater than 1 atm in a closed system. We know that normally at normal altitudes the atmospheric pressure is 1 atm or 760 mmHg. So when we close the container in which we are doing hydrothermal synthesis reaction and we are using temperature more than 100 degrees centigrade, which is the boiling point of the water, then we will get pressure greater than 1 atm. So greater than 1 atm in a closed system in order to dissolve and crystallize materials which are natively insoluble under normal conditions. So in 1913, hydrothermal method described by Mori and Nigli as a method in which the components are subjected to action of water at temperatures are usually above the critical temperatures of water, which is 370 degrees centigrade in closed bombs and therefore under the corresponding high pressures developed by such solutions. Hydrothermal reactions can occur under conditions of high temperatures and high pressures in aqueous solution and in a closed system. Although most of the scientists think that hydrothermal synthesis carries out above 100 degrees centigrade temperature and above 1 atm pressure, but there is no definite lower limit for temperature and pressure conditions. It can be from 100 to some higher temperature and from 1 atm pressure to some higher pressure. Hydrothermal reaction is generally chosen for the synthesis or stabilization of new compounds, growth of single crystals, preparation of finely divided materials and microcrystallines which have well defined size and morphology. It can also be used for filtration of ores in metal extraction, for decomposition, modification, corrosion, and etching. Talking about the history of the hydrothermal synthesis, hydrothermal method was first reported by German geologist in 1845 when he grew the microscopic quartz crystals in a pressure cooker. So you can see the diagram in the right panel of this slide. The two people, they are working on the synthesis of quartz crystals, and the autoclave at that time which is shown is just like a pressure cooker. Robert Bunsen reported growing crystals of barium and strontium carbonate at 200 degrees centigrade and pressure of 15 atmospheres using sealed glass tubes and aqueous ammonium chloride as a solvent. In 1849 and 1851, French crystallographer Henry produced crystals of various minerals via hydrothermal synthesis. So this diagram is showing the synthetic quartz crystals produced in the autoclave, which is shown in Western Electric's pilot hydrothermal quartz plant in 1959. Later, in 1905, Spezia published reports on the growth of macroscopic crystals. He used solutions of sodium silicate, natural crystals as seeds and supply, and silver lined vessel. By heating the supply end of his vessel to 320 to 350 degrees centigrade and the other end to 165 to 180 degrees centigrade, he obtained about 50 mm of new growth over a 200-day period. So here it is very important to note that at the beginning the time of the reaction was very long. Still it is large. Like if we use hydrothermal synthesis, we need to place our autoclaves in furnace or in oven for many days, 1 to 2, 3 or more days. So unlike modern practice, the hotter part of the vessel was at the top. A shortage in the electronics industry of natural quartz crystals from Brazil World War II led to post-war development of a commercial scale hydrothermal process for culturing quartz crystals, which was done by A.C. Walker and Ernie Behler in 1950. They used Bell Laboratories to do their practicals, and other notable contributions have been made by Nacken in 1946, by Helle 1948, Brown 1951, and Coleman in 1955. So, talking about hydrothermal synthesis, the most important thing is the water, which acts as a medium. So, water as a medium. What are the properties of water as a medium? We will discuss about it. Water is one of the most important solvent which is present in nature in abundant amount and has remarkable properties as a reaction medium under hydrothermal conditions. Water shows different characteristics under hydrothermal conditions than that of standard conditions. Normally, water has certain characteristics, but when we apply hydrothermal conditions like high temperature, higher than the boiling temperature of water, and at higher atmospheric pressure, then the characteristics of water becomes different. One of the biggest advantages of using water is the environmental benefit and cheaper than other solvents. Water vapors are not very harmful, and because water is easily available, cheaper material, and it can act as a catalyst for the formation of desired materials by tuning the temperature and the pressure. It is non-toxic, and being inorganic solvent, it is non-flammable, non-carcinogenic, non-mutagenic, and thermodynamically stable. Another advantage that water is very volatile, so it can be removed from the product very easily because its boiling point is 100 degrees centigrade. So if we just heat the material at 100 degrees centigrade, we can remove the water from the material as water vapors. So hydrothermal solvents, the most importantly the water, it has different properties at above 100 degrees centigrade and above 1 atm pressure, especially at critical point. We will discuss later about critical point. So in order to understand the hydrothermal reactions and the properties of solvent under hydrothermal conditions must be known very well. This is the phase diagram of water. On the x-axis we can see the temperature, and on the y-axis we can see the pressure. So starting from the 1 atm pressure, there will be a certain temperature at which the water vapors can give us 1 atm pressure. At lower temperature, the water is in liquid form. At very low temperature, it is in solid form, because we know that water freezes at 4 degrees Celsius temperature. At high temperatures, it is liquid, and at more high temperature, it becomes in water phase, vapors phase. So at 1 atm pressure, we know that at a certain temperature, which is represented by TB, water is in liquid form. As the temperature increases, the water starts to be converted from liquid to vapor, and at a certain temperature, which is critical point, we get the water vapors and we get critical pressure, which is represented by PC atmosphere. So in this figure 1, this is figure 1 phase diagram of water. In the figure 1, the critical point marks the end of liquid vapor coexistence curve at the critical temperature Tc and the pressure Pc in a phase diagram for a pure homogeneous substance. A fluid is defined as being supercritical if it is maintained at conditions above its critical temperature and pressure. So the properties of supercritical fluids vary depending on the pressure and temperature, and frequently described as being intermediate between those of gas and a liquid. So the critical temperature is the temperature at which the water is in between the liquid and the vapor phase. As the temperature increases, the liquid becomes less dense due to thermal expansion, and at the same time the gas becomes denser. At the critical point, the densities of both phases becomes the same. The compound is neither liquid nor gas any longer above the critical point, and it becomes supercritical fluid. So as I have already mentioned, that the critical temperature is the temperature at which the water is not only the liquid. Figure 2 shows variation of dielectric constant of water with temperature and pressure. The dielectric constant, that is defined as the ability of a solvent to charge separate, it increases sharply with the pressure, as can be seen in the diagram. As the pressure is increasing, the dielectric property is increasing. In the compressible region, that refers to the area around the critical point in which compressibility is considerably greater than would be forecasted from the ideal gas law. So this behavior is also parallel to a change in density, as shown in figure 2. Density changes sharply but continuously with pressure in the compressible region. One of the most important advantage of hydrothermal solvent is that a change in density affects the solvating power. A decrease in density results in a significant change in solvating ability. So the physical and chemical properties of water and aqueous solutions in the temperature and pressure ranges required for hydrothermal synthesis have been discussed in many articles. So the data for water up to 1000 degrees centigrade and 10 kilobar are known accurately enough. If the density of water is high enough, non-polar compounds may be completely miscible with it because water behaves as a non-aqueous fluid. Water is a polar solvent and its polarity can be controlled by temperature and pressure, and this can be an advantage over other solvents. So in conclusion, we can say that water acts both as a polar as well as a non-polar solvent, and it depends upon the pressure and the temperature which is applying on the reaction medium. So this is all about this lecture. Thank you very much.